Welcome to the Loreweaver Podcast, where we explore fantasy, history, world building, and the stories that shape our imaginations. Here we dive deep from A Song of Ice and Fire analysis, to book reviews, to real historical parallels behind your favorite worlds. If you enjoy thoughtful takes, close readings, and long form discussion, you're in the right place. Let's get into today's episode. Why Arya Stark will not sail west of Westeros. There's a common saying in fandom, the show is not the books, and nowhere is that more obvious than with Arya Stark, a character whose entire thematic arc points toward home and family. Yet the show sent her sailing west on a poorly established journey that belongs to someone else. In Game of Thrones, Arya ends the series sailing west of Westeros, recreating a story that George R. Martin already wrote for someone else. Alyssa Farman, the woman who built the Sun Chaser and disappeared across the Sunset Sea 100 years before the books begin. But Arya Stark, her story points home, north, toward leadership, identity, and family, not west. Understanding these differences is important because Martin's books are not heading toward the same endpoint as the TV show, and Arya's arc in the novels is built on completely different foundations. In this podcast, I'm going to break down why that is using direct quotes and actual book evidence. Let's get started. Arya Stark's arc is defined by running toward home, dreaming of home, and returning home eventually. From her very first book, Arya's compass points north. After Yoren rescues her from the Lannisters, she doesn't think about exploring new lands. She thinks about Winterfell, Jon, her mother, and the Wall. George shows us this over and over through Arya's dreams, including this one from A Clash of Kings. When at last she slept, she dreamed of home. The King's Road wound its way past Winterfell on its way to the Wall, and Yoren had promised he'd leave her there, with no one the wiser about who she'd been. She yearned to see her mother again, and Robb and Bran and Rickon. But it was Jon Snow she thought of most. In this passage, she is traveling in disguise with the Night's Watch recruits after the murder of her father. While dealing with her trauma and grief, as well as bullying from other traumatized children, Arya is longing for home and family, not the high seas. This continues here in A Storm of Swords. She dreamt of home, not Riverrun, Winterfell. It was not a good dream, though. She was alone outside the castle, up to her knees in mud. She could see the gray walls ahead of her, but when she tried to reach the gates, every step seemed harder than the one before, and the castle faded before her, until it looked more like smoke than granite. And there were wolves as well, gaunt shapes, stalking through the trees all around her, their eyes shining. Whenever she looked at them, she remembered the taste of blood. Here we have Arya while she is being held prisoner by the Brotherhood Without Banners, who are planning to ransom her. This dream fully illustrates her desire for Winterfell and the long struggle she has endured to return there. And yet again, here's another passage from A Storm of Swords. I am almost there, Arya thought. She knew she ought to be excited, but her belly was all knotted up tight. Maybe that was just the fever she'd been fighting. Maybe not. Last night she'd had a bad dream. A terrible dream. She couldn't remember what she dreamed of now, but the feeling had lingered all day. If anything, it had only gotten stronger. Fear cuts deeper than swords. She had to be strong now, the way her father told her. There was nothing between her and her mother but a castle gate, a river, and an army. But it was Robb's army, so there was no real danger there. Was there? Arya's deepest fear is not getting home to her family. Even when she is aboard a ship on her way to Braavos, when she stands on the prow of the Titan's daughter in A Feast for Crows, she imagines the ship taking her to the Wall, not on an adventure. Arya stood at the prow, one hand resting on the gilded figurehead, a maiden with a bowl of fruit. For half a heartbeat, she let herself pretend it was her home ahead. But that was stupid. Her home was gone, her parents dead, and all her brothers slain but Jon Snow at the Wall. That was where she had wanted to go. She told the captain as much, but even the iron coin did not sway him. Arya never seemed to find the places she set out to reach. This is not a character yearning for the open seas. This is a girl yearning for home and family. Arya's northern identity and old gods magic. Arya is spiritually tied to the North in a way no TV ending can override. Unlike the adaptation, Arya is deeply connected to the old gods of the North. During her imprisonment in Harrenhal, she visits the Godswood regularly, as a sanctuary and as a place to practice her swordplay. She makes Jaqen swear on the weirwood before tricking him into helping her free the imprisoned Northmen. Once she becomes Roose Bolton's cupbearer, she still needs to escape, so she seeks guidance from the weirwood in the Godswood, and she actually receives an answer as a weirwood tree responds to her with her father's voice. This scene is one of the most important moments of her arc, as she is galvanized into taking action and saving herself. In the Godswood, she found her broomstick sword where she had left it and carried it to the heart tree. There she knelt, red leaves rustling, red eyes peered inside her, the eyes of the gods. "Tell me what to do, you gods," she prayed. For a long moment there was no sound but the wind and the water and the creak of leaf and limb. And then, far, far off, beyond the Godswood and the haunted towers and the immense stone walls of Harrenhal, from somewhere out in the world came a long, lonely howl of a wolf. Goose prickles rose on Arya's skin, and for an instant she felt dizzy. Then, so faintly, it seemed as if she heard her father's voice. "When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives," he said. "But there is no pack," she whispered to the weirwood. "Bran and Rickon were dead. The Lannisters had Sansa. Jon had gone to the wall. I'm not even me now. I'm Nan. You are Arya of Winterfell, daughter of the North. You told me you could be strong. You have the wolf blood in you." The wolf blood. Arya remembered now. "I'll be as strong as Robb. I said I would." She took a deep breath, then lifted the broomstick in both hands and brought it down across her knee. It broke with a loud crack, and she threw the pieces aside. "I am a direwolf, and done with wooden teeth." This is magic. This is identity. This is the old gods answering. They call her Arya of Winterfell, daughter of the North. It's not subtle. Arya is tied to Winterfell and the North with the old gods guiding her. This entire exchange with the weirwood is missing from the adaptation, and that matters. In the book, Arya's identity is being anchored by the old gods, by the wolf blood, by the language of the pack in the North. Remove that foundation, and it becomes much easier to give her an ending that's symbolic but not earned. Arya's leadership arc. This is the real arc that the show discarded. Arya Stark is one of the most natural leaders in the entire series, and George builds this slowly and subtly. Ned Stark's leadership lessons. Arya is the Stark who remembers those lessons most clearly, along with Bran and Jon. Back in Winterfell, they had eaten in the Great Hall almost half the time. Her father used to say that the Lord needs to eat with his men if he hopes to keep them. "Know the men who follow you," she heard him tell Robb once, "and let them know you. Don't ask your men to die for a stranger." At Winterfell, he always had an extra seat set at his own table, and every day a different man would be asked to join him. One night it would be Vayen Poole, and the talk would be of coppers and bread stores and servants. The next time it would be Mycon. Another day it might be Hullen with his endless horse talk, or Septon Chael from the library, or Jory, or Sir Roderick, or even old Nan with her stories. Arya had loved nothing better than to sit at her father's table and listen to them talk. She had loved listening to the men on the benches too, to free riders tough as leather, courtly knights and bold squires, grizzled old men at arms. She used to throw snowballs at them and help them steal pies from the kitchen. Their wives gave her scones, and she invented names for their babies, and played monsters and maidens, and hide the treasure, and come into my castle with their children. She recalls this years later word for word. She listens to the small folk, she knows their names, she plays with their children, she knows their stories and their concerns. The ability to engage with common people as well as nobles is essential to good leadership. Leading her pack. Arya naturally becomes the leader of her little pack with Gendry and Hot Pie, even though both of them are older than her and male in a patriarchal world. In the books, we can find her reading a map, navigating their path across land, obscuring their tracks, and attempting to make sure they're all fed and safe. She protects them at personal cost, even though she knows she could make better time without them. She would make much better time on her own, Arya knew, but she could not leave them. They were her pack, and she assigns herself the most dangerous tasks. From time to time, she sent Hot Pie and Gendry on while she doubled back to try to confuse their trail. This is textbook leadership. Arya internalizes Ned's famous lesson in taking on the moral weight of judgments. The Starks were at war with the Lannisters, and she was a Stark, so she should kill as many Lannisters as she could. That was what you did in war. But she didn't think she should trust Jaqen. I should kill them myself. Whenever her father had condemned a man to death, he did the deed himself, with ice, his greatsword. If you would take a man's life, you owe it to him to look him in the face and hear his last words, she'd heard him tell Robb and Jon once. This becomes a philosophical rule that shapes her ethics. These scenes aren't just character color, they're deliberate groundwork for the kind of adult version of Arya Martin is preparing her to become. Arya Stark is a political character, a northern leader in training, not a future captain of the Sun Chaser. Arya has zero nautical setup, unlike Alyssa and Corlys. If George wanted Arya to sail into the unknown, we would see set up like her fascination with ships, desire to explore lands unknown, mentors in seafaring, and shipboard responsibilities. But Arya has none of these. She grew up inland. She visited White Harbor only twice and doesn't have strong memories of a fascination with ships. She never expresses any interest in sailing as a profession. When she does get on a ship, she's a passenger trying to get home or to John at the Wall. Compare that to how George writes seafarers. Alyssa Farman, the story the show gave Arya. Everything about the West of Westeros ending comes from one character, Alyssa Farman. George gives Alyssa a full backstory in Fire and Blood. She is the quintessential Westerosi explorer. Here's a direct quote. 3 years Andros elder, Alyssa Farman shared her brother's blue eyes and long flaxen hair. But elsewise, she was as unlike him as a sibling could be. Sharp of wit and sharper of tongue, she loved horses, dogs, and hawks. She was a fine singer and a skilled archer. But her great love was sailing. The wind our steed were the words of the Farmans of Fair Isle, who had sailed the western seas since the Dawn Age, and Lady Alyssa embodied them. As a child, it was said that she spent more time at sea than upon land. Her father's crews used to laugh to see her climbing the rigging like a monkey. She sailed her own boat around Fair Isle at the age of 4 and 10. By the time she was 20, she had voyaged as far north as Bear Island and as far south as the Arbor. Oftentimes, to the horror of her lord father and lady mother, she spoke of her desire to take a ship beyond the western horizon, to learn what strange and wondrous lands might lie on the far side of the sunset sea. As you can see, Alyssa has the setup Arya doesn't. Lifelong time at sea, a stated dream of sailing past the western horizon, and the actual skills to do it. She funds it, builds the ship, hires a crew, and vanishes into legend. That's what a Sail West arc looks like when Martin writes it unambiguously with Alyssa. Later, Lord Corlys Velaryon possibly sees her ship in Asshai, confirming that she made it all the way around the world. This is a fully developed seafaring arc. The show gave this ending to Arya, but without the well-structured character arc. Arya has nothing in common with Alyssa's background, training, or dreams. Corlys Velaryon, how nautical arcs are actually written. Corlys Velaryon is another contrast, and an important one. Corlys is written as a sailor from childhood, learning the work, navigation, and captaincy, till exploration becomes his identity. As Martin said in Fire and Blood, his captain said they had never seen such a natural sailor. Martin knows what that training looks like. Arya simply isn't built that way. Corlys is a sailor in the same way that Arya is a Stark and a direwolf from birth. Why sailing west undermines Arya's arc. Here we tie everything together. Number 1, it cuts her off from her pack. Arya's story is about finding strength in the pack, not the lone wolf. Jon, Bran, and Rickon are the siblings she longs for her entire journey through the books. She also feels connected to the Northmen, some of whom she helped at Harrenhal and right before their deaths in the Riverlands. Going west ends with her as the lone wolf rather than part of the pack that survives, which contradicts Ned's teachings and the old gods' message. In A Game of Thrones, and again in A Clash of Kings, Ned shares a central theme of the series with Arya. When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, the pack survives. Summer is a time for squabbles. In winter we must protect one another, keep each other warm, share our strength. Leaving her pack after struggling for multiple books to reunite with them destroys her arc. Number 2, it contradicts her theme of home and family. Arya spends the entire series trying to get home. Her ending must honor that. While Alyssa Farman and Corlys Velaryon dreamed of sailing the sea, Arya dreams of Winterfell, Jon, her parents, Robb, her direwolf, and home. She does not dream of ships. Even when she smells the scents meant to make her comfortable in the House of Black and White during a feast for crows, the scents bring her back to Winterfell and family. Those who come to drink from the Black Cup are looking for their angels. If they are afraid, the candles soothe them. When you smell our candles burning, what does it make you think of, my child? Winterfell, she might have said. I smell snow and smoke and pine needles. I smell the stables. I smell Hodor laughing, and Jon and Robb battling in the yard, and Sansa singing about some stupid lady fair. I smell the crypts where the stone kings sit. I smell hot bread baking. I smell the godswood. I smell my wolf. I smell her fur, almost as if she were still beside me. The memory of home, family, and her direwolf give Arya comfort in the House of the Dead. Her choosing to leave them for a random idea of sailing away on a ship she has never expressed interest in captaining doesn't make sense. Number 3. It breaks her magical arc. Arya's wargame and wolf dreams are tied to the land of the north, not the open sea. Putting Arya on a ship means leaving not only her family and her people, but also her direwolf Nymeria and the giant pack she built. Given the connection George R.R. Martin maintained between Arya and Nymeria, despite their physical distance, having Arya leave Nymeria behind in Westeros again, as happened in the TV show, is extremely unlikely. Martin has even joked in an interview that you don't introduce a giant wolf pack unless you intend to use it. Nymeria isn't background flavor. Number 4. It wastes her leadership training. Arya remembers Ned's lessons, protects the vulnerable, leads small groups with instinctive skill, engages with small folk and nobles alike, learning about them and letting them know her, can read people across class lines, and is a skilled strategist even as a child. She would be an invaluable northern leader. When discussing possible professions for Bran in the books, she asks about her own possible future, never mentioning becoming a sailor or even a knight, despite both of those professions being brought up for Bran in A Game of Thrones. Here's the passage. He was going to be a knight, Arya was saying now. A knight of the King's Guard. Can he still be a knight? No, Ned said. He saw no use in lying to her. Yet some day he may be a lord of a great holdfast and sit on the king's council. He might raise castles like Brandon the Builder, or sail a ship across the sunset sea, or enter your mother's faith and become the High Septon. But he will never run beside his wolf again, he thought, with a sadness too deep for words, or lie with a woman, or hold his own son in his arms. Arya cocked her head to one side. Can I be a king's counselor, and build castles, and become the High Septon? Notice how Arya didn't latch onto the idea of sailing a ship across the sunset sea or becoming a knight. She focuses in on becoming a king's counselor, an architect, or the High Septon. This is political ambition in a child who doesn't yet understand the world. Arya's arc points toward public service, not disappearance. I'm not here to predict Martin's exact ending, but this much is clear. Arya Stark's story must end in a place that honors her northern identity. Her magical connection to the wolves and the werewoods, her dreams of family, her leadership instincts, her political potential, her desire to serve the people, and her role in the war for the living. Arya is not Alyssa Farman. She is Arya of Winterfell, daughter of the North, and she belongs where the old gods called her, home. Thanks for listening to the Loreweaver Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following the show so you never miss new analysis, reviews, and deep dives. I would also love to hear your thoughts. Share your theories, reactions, or questions in the comments. Until next time, keep exploring the lore.